This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. She certainly is somebody that gives us the freedom to explore our creative side, kind of play around with different creativity. I don't even want to call it art because sometimes when you put a label on something, then people shy away. Oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do that. No, the creative side of you. Today, we're going to talk about letting that out, playing, having fun with it. Why? It's therapeutic. She is an art therapist, and there's so many beautiful things that help people heal from art, discover things, maybe things that have been inside, maybe discover creativity you didn't know you had. Our professional of the year, Barbara Robertson, is back with us. How you doing today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you, Steve?
Really good, really good. When you work with people on the therapeutic level, do you often find they say that I'm not an artist, I'm not creative, I don't know where, they're afraid to get judged and all of that?
Very often. Yeah,
Mm.
it's so common. In fact it can be discouraging and kind of makes me wonder like where did this idea of art and creativity as a very sort of exacting kind of undertaking, where did it become so kind of exclusive that it's not something that really even sounds inviting to many people, but rather has us putting our guard up. No,
Does it come from judgment? The guard is up, maybe secretly deep down inside. I do want to do this, but then I don't want to be judged.
I think it does come from that, and it comes from kind of the awareness that a lot of art is seen in these places, physical structures that's
Hmm.
just hallowed halls, like places where you should have this sort of worshipful attitude when you come in. They kind of discourage loud chatter and people having fun and standing in front of a painting and laughing about what they see. But I mean, I can't imagine anything livelier than looking at art in a museum with a bunch of friends and going, "Oh my gosh, did you see that? Look up in that corner. What is going on in that picture?" But most of the time, the message we get is, get serious, quit playing around. And my message to the whole world, if you're listening, is quit being serious and get busy playing.
I know exactly what you're saying. I did 5 podcasts in an art gallery, and they also opened up a museum, and this was in New York, and I did this in June, and I had no idea what I was getting into until I showed up, but it had that kind of quiet kind of feel to it, and it didn't go along with the vibe because if you were to look around, there was color everywhere, yellows, reds, blues, bright splash. In fact, it almost looked like we were on a set that was designed for the podcast because they had certain chairs that were like fun and made out of, I don't know what kind of material it was, but it almost looked like I felt like I was at Disney. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what
Yeah,
I'm talking about. And somehow, maybe the word worship that I used a couple of minutes ago is a little too heavy, but there's a
I
sort
got
of
you.
an attitude of reverence
Yeah, yeah.
instead of just camaraderie. Oh man, it must have been so fun to smear that paint all over the canvas.
We
You
may be
know,
thinking it, but we're not saying it. And especially if you're in the museum setting, everybody was really quiet and you don't have to
that's
like
right. That's right. Yes. And
like a,
don't
like a library, like a library.
exactly like library. And don't
Yeah.
step up too close to the surface of the painting. Don't reach out with your hand because you might touch it and then the guard's going to scold you. And there's sort of this whole kind of culture to viewing art that makes it seem like an elite sort of practice.
Yeah. Why did that ever happen? Because I'm getting it. I know I feel just what you're saying. It's almost like um, you almost feel not worthy enough to be in a museum or gallery
Yes.
setting, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know that to get into a gallery, your work has to literally pass judgment by the owners as something that contains value. And the value is not like inventory in a retail setting. The value is in the perception of the viewer. And
Mm.
so there's an incentive in that sort of commerce of art to drum up a sense of value about this particular artist as a person who's got very unusual exotic traits, or something. There's usually some kind of a spin around how this person came up with this clever idea. I think of Jackson Pollock with huge canvases on the floor in this warehouse and throwing gallons of paint across the canvas as he walks around it and just splattering colors everywhere and letting them
Mm.
dry on top of each other. That looks like fun. But at the same time, then they became objects that sold for millions of dollars. And it's sort of, the fun was sort of like escorted out the side doors. And nobody talked about, man, that must have been a blast.
Isn't it interesting that you could have this established artist, and some may love the artist, some may say, Not my thing." But then you can have the unknown artist that does a beautiful work of art and doesn't even get the the notoriety that the other one does just because they became a quote unquote name.
Right.
But isn't it so subjectionable? Like we could walk together in a gallery or museum right now. We're looking at the same things. You can look at this. Wow. The color, the composition, all of this. And I can be looking like, what is that? Like, I'm going to look over here. Or you
Exactly.
enjoy, I'll
Yeah,
be over here right now because that's not
right.
doing it for me. It's, as they say, and I know it's a cliche, but it rings so true here. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I recall going to an art museum. I can't remember where we were. It might have been Boston with a friend who was not in the arts herself, but she said she would love to go with me. So the two of us went together. And as I was going through, I was sort of hopping and skipping ahead because I would look at one or two paintings in one section and then something would catch my eye through the next doorway and I would move along. And after we'd been there for a while, she said, "Wow, I didn't really realize that we could just skip over pictures on the wall."
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if we can or not, but I do, because
Well, what you know what? This goes back to um, what we're talking about here in the beginning, guilt. So, we want to break the change and just be creative and play. There could be some guilt there. I created this and now somebody's going to look at it. So they may feel guilty if they don't tell me that it's, good. And like you just said, there's guilt in that museum and gallery if we skip over a certain section or artist because it doesn't do it for us, but there shouldn't be any.
exactly, exactly. So we sort of assume that there are these rules, and it gets to be like one of those hidden beliefs that we absorb as kids that we don't know we're trying to live by. We don't know we're trying to conform to this practice so that
Mm.
can maintain a feeling of belonging.
Yeah.
So what
I never thought of this. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. Does it come back to society and what we're taught?
I do think so. I do think so. And does come back to that absolute sort of biological mandate to develop a sense of belonging, a sense of affiliation with other people, because that is our prime survival strategy. We are a pack animal. We are herd animals. We're mammals that do best when we have connections to a larger group or community because we have a support network and we can trade roles, who's being supported, who's doing the supporting at any given time. And life, does tend to play out as a series of crises with some peaceful stretches in between.
Hmm.
And if you've got a healthy support network to help you realize you've not been singled out for pain, it's a part of humanity. Everyone else here has had something hard to deal with, and kind of give you encouragement, let you know that you're stronger than you think you are. You got this, you can handle it. It really sort of feeds our whole capacity to be resilient and manage something that's very challenging and learn whatever we can from it and move on.
In your experience as an art therapist, we've never talked about this specifically. What have you helped people? Just examples from memory. Yeah, totally confidential. Just things that you've helped people overcome through art. Do you recall some situations, or maybe even call it a breakthrough?
I do, and most of them involve people who have had a lot of reticence about even putting a mark down on a paper, and when they have done so, they've dared to do that. If I attempt to make any positive comment about it, I will often get a sort of eye roll, kind of, oh, you just have to say that because you're just leading this group. So it's your job to tell me it's good, but it's not really good. It's like when your mother tells you you look pretty. Well, of course your mother thinks you're pretty.
Right.
That's not reliable information. So, it kind of happens like that often, but then now and then there'll be somebody who decides that this particular approach is playful enough that they can hazard playing with it. In one of those situations, I may have talked about this a couple of episodes ago. I don't remember, but this just is so vivid for me. Forgive me if it is a repetition, because I just cherished it so much. So this was a middle-aged woman who had had some rough years in her life, and she said, I'm not creative, I'm not artistic, don't even ask me to do this. I'm just going to sit here and watch.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I certainly don't want to force this on anybody. So take what you can from being here. Well, one day I had gotten some donations of odds and ends for people, and what I had was a batch of old-fashioned clothespins of the kind that had two prongs and a little ball.
Yeah, the wood ones. Wood, I got it.
Yeah, not the spring ones, but the ones that just slip down.
Totally
And
got
so
it.
they look like little bodies if you turn them sideways, because you can see the two legs and then the round part is the head.
Hmm.
And I had all kinds of fabric scraps because I've done a lot of sewing in my past, and I've done sculpture that incorporates fabrics being wrapped around other forms, and I just love the sort of tactile appeal of fabrics like silk and chiffon and things that have glitter in them and things that are kind of transparent. And so I had lots of fabric scraps like that and ribbons and things. And so I got it all out in a pile and handed everybody a clothespin and said, okay, these are going to be like Ecuadorian worry dolls. They have a cultural practice in Ecuador where they have these little tiny figures that they wrap with yarn, and they call them worry dolls because at night before they go to sleep, they take whatever is on their mind that day and ask the worry doll to hold it for them, tuck it under the pillow, and let them get a good night's sleep. And I think if you grow up learning to do that, it really can help you to let go of something you can't do anything about. As opposed to most of us who, if we've got something going on, man, we're trying to solve it all night long, even though we can't even lift a finger to solve it.
Wow.
So I said, create a worry doll out of this clothespin. And this lovely person who said she wasn't creative found the sparkliest fabrics and wrapped up this clothespin so she looked like she was all glammed up, and put a sort of a nice turban around the top of her head, gave her some red lips. And at the end of the group, I went around and said, okay, so show us your doll if you're willing, and tell us what is it that makes this particular figure that you've created good at holding your worries. So everybody had a little say about what they had done, and it came to her turn, and she said, "My doll is a nightclub singer. What she does, she takes my worries and she turns them into songs." I went,
Wow.
"Oh my God, isn't that what the blues is? Isn't that blues music in a nutshell?"
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, that just resonated so vividly with me."
That is the the foresight there. Uh, she's brilliant.
I
It's
thought so too. Absolutely brilliant.
You know what this sounds like? A blend now. We've crossed a bridge between art therapy and drama therapy. For somebody to come up with something like that based
Yes,
on a colored clothespin.
right. And I think also it had to do with those things being like small dolls
Sure.
and the doll awakening the instinct to play
Hmm.
that offered enough safety for her to play with the fabrics and represent something she knew she had experience either being a singer, possibly, she didn't say, but certainly listening to, hearing people sing, seeing
Totally.
seeing singers sing about stuff that's heart-wrenching, but put it into music and it's like, yeah, yeah,
It's as if you've pushed it off of you into sound, into music. And let's be honest. When you go back to your childhood and you played with dolls, boys and girls, I had G.I. Joe.
yes,
I loved, I had a cowboy, a green cowboy figure that
awesome.
that was about, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, inches,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
I would make clothes for it. Honestly, I didn't have any money as a kid, so I had to get creative. And that took the persona of a cowboy, or it was an army person, or whatever it might be.
yep,
But
exactly.
you release things in terms of playing with it, and all of the scenarios too, where one doll is speaking one thing and another one's speaking other. Take that now to adult, to a clothespin, i.e., doll, and some healing takes place.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So that's
I have to ask. I want to go back on that for a moment.
sure.
Did you inspire her any further than saying that? Well, we could color these and make these into little dolls, these clothespins.
No, no, and I think the thing that really sort of spoke to her probably also in a way that encouraged her to do it is the concept of giving a burden to something else to hold. And that's
Okay.
a lot of what does happen in art therapy is you take what's burdening you, that you take what is burdening your heart and you put it into some sort of, you give it shape. You give it color, form, pattern, texture, size, whatever. And it doesn't really matter what materials you're using, whether you're making, a critter out of cardboard scraps like this guy, and saying,
Hmm.
okay, so this is a little critter who's, got a fuzzy tail and sort of a cute, sort of begging for attention face, but he's also got some protection. He's got a shell, he's got a hard shell on his back, and he's got something that's kind of sharp. It could be a horn. And so he's wanting connection, but he's also a little bit unsafe, not sure connecting is
Hmm.
really okay. So that's what potentially what something like that can create. And then when there's a figure there that is doing something to enhance its own safety, then you sort of can feel like, yeah, that's what everybody needs, isn't it? Yeah, we need to have connection, but we need to have safe connection. And so it can be just affirming that there's something that is part of the human experience, and we don't have to feel bad about it because nobody wants to get hurt.
Where did you get this from? Where did your mind turn into somebody who looks at these details in every way. You could look at a tree and describe it in such amazing detail. You've done it before. And even in this situation, what could come from somebody or a little tiny sculpture with a couple of paper towel rollers and some paint.
Right, right. I think a lot of what I have learned to do is to really look with my heart, and I think that goes back to
Hmm.
play as well. I've got this great book that I've been reading about play by somebody named Stuart Brown, who actually started something called the National Institute for Play, and he's
Wow.
done this book that got all kinds of research about why play is important, what it's all about. Um, And this is one thing that he quotes another individual who's very interested in researching play, whose name I can't quite find right now. But when you experience play, and particularly if you're playing with a child, so that you really are not just recalling what it was like to play as a child, but experiencing play with a child, so really getting pulled into it, it opens your heart, and then you see what's inside.
Whoa.
And so kind of what I have learned how to do over many years of looking and feeling, and more also using my sensory system to notice what is lighting up in my body. Where is it feel energizing? What does my body want to move in a particular way when I see something in an image? Those are all little clues as to what's going on. And so this little guy, my body wants to pet, but then I'm not sure I want to pet because that's the little sharp thing there. So then
When I
I'm
look at
going,
that, I'm seeing two things. I'm seeing a cute, little character,
yep,
friendly, happy, loving, but I'm also seeing an evil side. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm seeing maybe a side that's cautious. Um, don't cross it.
yes,
There's two things.
a side that can use aggression. Yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
maintain safety because that after all is what it's for. And
Mm.
that, even if you look at animal behavior, if you've ever had your own dog, if you step on your dog's paw, it might snap or bark sharply. And it doesn't mean that it wants to hurt you. It's trying to say, hey, that hurt. Don't do that again.
Or I'm trying to stay safe.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is what we all want. I guess dogs
Yes.
too. You know
Yeah.
what? Just clicked in my head.
Tell me.
We're talking, okay, a theatrical production in school.
Okay.
What's that called? A theatrical production in school where you
Um,
have a bunch of students on the stage and they are doing
a play. A
thank
play.
you, thank you, a
Yes,
play.
a play. That's
They're
right.
doing a play.
Thank you.
I've
Yes.
never looked at it in that way. It's, I look at it more in a serious way of a theatrical production in the school.
That's right.
No,
It's
it's a play.
drama.
My son
Yes,
is
it's
in a
a play.
play. He's going to
Yes.
play the role of Willy Wonka. It's a
Yeah, and
play,
and when you're kind of using that little cowboy doll, you were kind of play acting
100%.
with the doll. And that, I mean, that's another level of learning.
Yeah.
Because we're imagining what would it be like if I were a cowboy? What would a cowboy do? And there's another branch of therapy called Gestalt, which is also involving a lot of play, in which the therapist will often say to the client, can you be and it might be, something like, my husband was so angry at me last week. Okay, can you be the anger?
Mm. I, want-
And
I-
then and then you're going, okay, let me see. Okay, so this is my husband's anger. It's angry at me, and it's saying, don't treat me like this, or whatever, but in the process of trying to sort of assume that entity, that essence, that being, you're connecting with the person you're in conflict with
yeah.
and understanding their motivation.
And you
And
can do the same thing with art.
Do the same thing with art.
or whatever
Yes.
creative means. Gestalt too. I've talked to people before. There's also horse therapy called Gestalt, where basically it's the same thing as you work through your emotions, you process them, but just with the help of a horse who are
Yes.
very, very plugged in more than we ever realized.
Oh, warm. Yes, very
Mm.
deeply. Horses are very sensitive.
It's the more and more I study, and I have been lately. I met a horse. I'm not even kidding. It was in a field. I became friends with it. Don't laugh.
Awesome.
And I
Yeah.
felt when looking in its eye, this very strange connection. Um, it was a wonderful experience. That's all I can say. There's something there.
Yeah,
And
I think that's very true. Very
mm,
true. Yeah.
we're out of time. I gotta just keep going with you. Like so wonderful.
Well, we'll just have
Um,
to pick up where we left off next time.
you can help people with art therapy, even virtually anywhere. How do we find you?
Okay. Email is B Robertson, Robertson .atr@gmail.com. And my website is Robertson Art Therapy LLC, no punctuation anywhere in that .com.
They're telling me that we asked last time we got together, at the time before that, send us if you have some art or whatever, you want Barbara to take a look at it. And so I'm being told we have some. We're doing that next time we get together.
Awesome. Okay, I'll be
Yeah,
delighted. I'm really looking forward to
me
that.
too. Me too. By the way, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. If you want to send stuff in, just want, for whatever reason, we love looking at it. I really mean that. And I love talking with you, Barbara. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. And shoot me those comics again. They didn't come in today.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Try them by email.
I will be
Okay.
doing that before the end of the day.
Awesome.
Just
Okay.
be gentle in your critique.
Believe me. Believe me. It's going to say more to me than you ever imagined it could.
Uh, you know what? I'm going to
Oh,
tell you,
good.
I did it when I was in my upper teens and early 20s. And a few years later now, I'm still proud of it.
Good. Oh, I'm so glad
I
to hear
really
that.
am. I
That
really
is
mean
so
that.
uplifting. Bravo.
All right. We'll catch up next time.
Okay. Take
Thank
care.
you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.